Okay, welcome back, folks. After a short break, we're picking back up on H91. We are on page 13, section 2212, regional planning needs assessments.
Oh, we're not on that. You don't want to go back.
Do you have the language that?
No, I do, but that's later, but.
Oh, I was just gonna wait till we do it on the,
Okay.
when we see the
Yep,
language.
yep,
It
fine.
didn't seem
All right.
like a big deal. Okay, so, let's see, we don't have any comments for community action on that part.
Just about this,
Okay.
and it does go into what I'm gonna talk about is, I'm just wondering how we can bring, the local presentation, like the districts, from the groups kind of currently listed in the advisory committee that we agree need to be more part of this process, like Department of Mental Health and Dale and all of those, if there's a way we can kind of bring them into that needs assessment and planning process. Because I think more so than the advisory committee, those are the kinds of things where they can really be brought in and we can break down those silos.
Well, I did have a question on 17. It says jointly, but it doesn't say jointly with whom. So I was thinking, I was trying to think in my head, like, what does that mean? And I mean, shall jointly,
COCs?
well,
Well, it sounds to me.
we've already included them in that
Yeah.
new highlighted area.
Yeah,
That's what that is
yeah,
referring
right.
to. So that we don't want to replicate something that is already required by the feds. Yeah.
The way I read it was that the community action agencies shall jointly plan.
With each other, yeah.
With one another.
Yeah, and I don't think that's what I was intending. Yeah.
So you want 5 different plans?
Yeah, they're
essentially?
regional. That's what the
Yeah.
purpose is, to be
Yeah.
able to customize.
Are there, I guess when I was thinking, I wonder, are there parts of the planning process that need to be not 5 independent, but?
Well, so, okay, I will go back to what I just did. At the beginning of,
And that's the part of the statewide, that's,
yes,
Well,
at page 12, under duties of the department,
yeah.
the little assignment I gave myself.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it now says the department shall have statewide responsibility for meeting the intent of this chapter, comma, including statewide planning and system development. And then it'll go into a separate thing, this. So
Okay.
yes, we need statewide planning. That's the role of the department. They'll use various methods to entertain input from
Okay.
not only these community action agencies, all the other partners, but people with lived experience. It's, it's broad.
so here, can we remove the word jointly and just say shall develop a regional needs assessment for use in each community action agency and then add like, shall collaborate with all like the parties that we want them to collaborate with to develop that regional needs assessment? Because some of them are statewide groups like DMH and Dale, and then some of them are regional, specific to that region.
Okay, so,
Advisory committee?
shall develop
It depends.
a regional needs assessment.
Some may have a district. Well, they have a district office beside.
So should it say something like, the federally required, blah, blah, the community action agencies shall develop a regional needs assessment. Regional needs assessment in collaboration. What I'm trying to figure out, is it the planning process or the because this is assessment.
I don't.
Planning and.
I think that is good.
Yeah, and some of this is already happening at the.
Right, that's why
Right.
continue here. So that's what we're talking about to, so the community action agency shall develop a regional needs assessment and plan planning process in collaboration with community and state partners. Community, because I
I'm
think,
good with that,
State?
yeah.
So, I'm wondering, if, because we want all of these departments to be involved, much more than they are now. I'm wondering if rather, or maybe in addition, but rather than there, going back to your intro language,
Mhm.
that the duties should actually be the Agency of Human Services has statewide responsibility for meeting the intent. And then, because the agency is the only one that can tell other departments to do something. DCF can't tell other departments. And then say that the statewide planning must include involvement of the other departments that were listed on that advisory that are state. And then the administrative oversight, et cetera, the department does. But add another, a second sentence, the agency shall have responsibility and,
Maybe we say just because I don't want another whole section, because this is under duties of the department.
well, yeah, just,
Maybe we can say the Agency of Human Services working with the department.
sure,
Yeah, I do like that because then they can, they are the only
They
ones
can
who
direct
tell
they're the
the
ones who
others,
can
yeah.
get the others.
Departments
required.
to
Yep,
collaborate.
yep, that's good.
Pardon me?
It's not under duties of the department.
Yeah, what we're talking about is
Yes,
2211 intro language is what we're discussing right now.
oh,
No, we did go back. We were.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So under this, it would say the Agency of Human Services working with the department shall have statewide responsibility for meeting the intent of this chapter, including statewide planning and system development and
And consultation with and the
involvement
involvement of,
and involvement of all
All agency departments.
all departments that have anything to do with housing.
Which
Because
is,
it should be all, it is all.
It's all-
Actually, there's
the-
none that.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they all.
we've had them all in here.
Right.
Okay, so you have the concept here, Katie? You do, okay, all right.
So I have one technical question. Sorry, I just don't want to understand. Duties of the department, and then we tell the agency what to do.
That's why I just said, the Agency of Human Services working with the department.
I see. So we're
So-
still,
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't want another whole section that says.
Yeah.
agency.
I heard you say that, but I wondered if we
Yeah.
technically have to. So,
Yeah.
okay, right.
Yeah,
Those are more.
okay.
mediated
so-
things than-
So then what I have, now I'm back to page 13. At the bottom of page 13, the plan shall include at a minimum, I added, include at a minimum. At the very, very last thing on page 13, I said 20 just now,
Oh,
didn't
the
I?
plan, right, okay. Line 20, right.
Yeah,
What did you say?
Katie will probably just write include.
Oh,
That's right. Say include as a minimum, right? Because include just means.
There can be more.
They can be more. Yeah. Okay, so we are checking off, are you clear on 22, on that section, Katie?
Yeah,
Okay.
are you saying that it's okay if I use include instead of at a minimum on the next one?
I'm saying that that's what I was expecting you to do.
Okay, great.
And did we eliminate jointly?
Yes,
Yeah.
we eliminated jointly.
Yeah.
We said, but we did say, assessment and planning process in collaboration with community and state partners.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, that section, we're moving on to page 14. And these are the minimum things that it addresses. We changed, report the rate of household participation. Not complete, we got rid of that nasty C word,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And again, this on line 11, it says Vermont's because we got rid of HHAV. We didn't get rid of HHAB, where's Frank? Is he still? Yeah. We didn't get rid of HHAB, we just realized that you report the results, you're not necessarily the owner of the data. Okay, are there any, I'm gonna ask if there's any questions, comments, yes?
So for line 7, the coordinated entry processes, just for clarity on intent, or is that really how many people are completing the assessment, or does that intend a broader scope of potential activity?
That's a good question. I mean, the initial way is through the assessment process. The intent is to encourage as many people as possible to participate in the whole process, but the initial assessment is what's going to get to plan development, like Eric has been talking about. So it's plural, so I guess it includes assessments. And
I think
anything
it's more
else.
than the assessment.
Right, that's why I just said
Yeah.
processes,
So
yeah.
what else, is it also them participating in case management? Because I think that. So then I wonder if it makes sense to say, because case management is not necessarily a coordinated entry process. I think that's maybe a stretch. So I don't know if you really are asking for like how many people are completing the assessment and then what is the level of participation in just case management?
Case management.
And maybe call out those two things separately, if that's your interest, okay.
Okay. So I still want to leave it as processes, so that includes assessment, but it also includes referral and other things, so, so let's,
There's ongoing assessments. There's like an
Right.
initial one and yeah.
so, let's add, the report on the rate of household participation in case management services. Okay, with the addition of case management services. Are we good on this section?
Just for clarity, Lily's question, so will there be several processes upon which they're reporting?
It's,
Or if someone has households participated in any, so that will just be one check, or will it?
we will let them decide on what are the relevant things to report. So the assessment, and then not knowing all of the intimate details of coordinated entry, and all the different sort of elements of it. I think we leave that, make sure that it's plural, but leave it open for right now.
So ultimately, based upon what they decide to include, getting a sense as to how people are working their way through the funnel, if you will. 1,000 people through the door, 950 initially assessed, 900. Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm checking that part off. A is checked off. Community action agencies submit plans, developed pursuant to the section in a format prescribed by the department. And then the aggregate of that, so that we are seeing what the results of this is. This is part about accountability. Okay? Everybody okay with B? Okay. Use of hotel and motel rooms. Okay, so at the bottom here, providing shelter, transitional shelter pursuant to it shall comply with program rules. That means those are the rules that are developed by the department.
Well,
And
we have to change that to be consistent with
Oh,
our
the
change
language, yeah.
titles, to the language there.
The temporary shelter.
Yeah.
Emergency shelter.
Yeah.
The health department just sent me an email that they want to see that the compliance applies to, I have right now shall comply with program rules. And I think what they're trying to say is and comply with the following.
I sent them the email and I just sent it to all of you with the health department. That she's probably just got to, remember?
Okay. And
About
that shall
the-
comply with.
And they are supposed to be inspected.
Yeah.
Right?
But they also want it to say,
Yeah.
that they have to be licensed under the rule, which if we're saying they have to comply with the rule, I would assume that means they have to be
Yeah.
licensed.
Yeah,
I'm not
because that's
sure.
right.
I just sent it to everybody, so. from the health department, because I sent that and you told me to send it.
Right, I saw you to look it up, yeah, so people want to see the email that Brenda forwarded to us. She was getting further detail about what the department requires in order to be licensed and the inspections, et cetera.
Yeah, and then that incorporates that perfectly by saying, and shall comply with program rules and the following.
And that's already written in
Comply
it.
with following.
Okay, so it looks like we hit it.
So Katie, I just want to make sure I understand, oh yeah, that's referring to the specific rule that that the health department is referencing in that email. Okay. You feel like you got it covered?
I think so. I have hotels and motels providing emergency shelter pursuant to this chapter shall comply with program rules and shall comply with the following. So I think that hits on there 2 and 3. And then their number 1 is that they have to be licensed under the licensing lodging establishment rule, but I think the rule says that you have to get a license, so it feels a little
Like we.
circular to me.
It looks like it's
And I think we need to say department,
health department.
departments. Well, no, departments here is referring to DCF. Is this, because remember, there used to be 3 things here. And the third thing was the general assistance, emergency housing rules.
Mhm.
And so we took that out because there's going to be new rules that will be called something else. But we were referencing it. That's what that program rules at the bottom of page 14 is referencing. So do we need to, because now we're
This would do like DCF's rules.
Yeah, that's-
Programs. I don't think it hurts to add it in. I think we're directing DCF to be the one to adopt rules on the program earlier, so it seems like that's who's DCF would be the owner of the rules. Yeah, but
Okay.
if you feel strongly, we could put departments
It's
in.
already covered. I don't need to add extra
Okay.
words. And I just want to make sure that you feel like you've captured what the Department of Health is looking for as well.
I think so.
Okay.
Glad Esme brought that up about the health issues.
Okay.
Really good one.
I don't think so, because I think the language that Katie read, where, because you just said that emergency shelter as opposed to listing both types, because didn't above.
We did,
only
yeah,
one
that's what we just changed it.
Yeah, so I think that was addressed then, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You did it already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have emergency shelter, which applies now to both groups of shelter.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, under line 9, or sorry, line 8, a community action agency may enter into a grant for the use of blocks of hotel and
Oh, you're
motel
not-
rooms.
We're not,
We're not
you're
there
on
yet.
15 already, page 15?
I'm just making sure that, we're just
We're in
turning,
section.
we're just turning to that, yes.
Oh, okay.
We changed that to agreements yesterday.
Yeah.
All right,
You don't have the,
New
we
version,
talked
right.
about it, but it's in the new version.
all right.
So I had a couple of things on B.
Okay, so we're done with A and the public safety aspects. Okay, we've got health department, we've got DCF, and we've got public safety. Okay,
Sounds like we hit it.
okay, B. Annually, this is where we're talking about, that, department proposes hotel and motel rates. And community action agencies complying with those and their ability to enter into agreements for the use of blocks of rooms and negotiate conditions for use of those. And Anne has a proposal.
So I have 2. The first is more clarification. On line 7, when we say the community action agency shall not pay more, does that incorporate, I mean, they're funneling all the payments, but it makes it sound like they shouldn't pay more,
Not
but
pay,
they
or
might,
cause to be
or
paid.
cause to be
Yeah.
paid, or, yeah.
Yeah,
It's great for those guys. But the bigger part is, and I sent, possible language so people have it in writing. I had talked before about the fact that to the extent that it's possible, that it really should be a priority, that we want, that they shall enter an agreement for these blocks that include, the providers being able to be there and, more of a kind of program element than just individual rooms. And it understood it may not be possible, so it's clear to the extent possible, but that they shall enter into them and prioritize that over individual per room placements.
So Anne sent us language at 10:47.
And maybe you could even say, and where appropriate, prioritize use.
Is that sentence 2 or 3?
That would be sentence 3. It would replace what's there starting on line 8 saying a community action agency may enter into. And it would replace it with, to the extent possible, community action agencies shall enter into, and it's not grants, I didn't make that change, agreements.
It's what Anne is essentially saying is like, let's prioritize the more efficient and effective use of hotels as necessary. And it doesn't say exclusively, it says as to the extent possible. So that leaves the ability, because in certain places, I'm going to say the Northeast Kingdom, it may not make sense to do that.
And in certain circumstances, for a specific individual, it
Yes.
may not.
Right. Yeah, Amy.
I just have a clarifying question. I don't think the CAPS would have a problem with what you're saying, Rep. Donahue, but my concern is with the use of shall. It kind of implies that you have to use
do it.
hotels and
Have to use
motels.
hotels.
Yeah.
And you talked earlier about providing flexibility, and so perhaps adding a phrase like, if hotel and motels are being utilized, then it should, your language.
That's fine. I thought that because the heading of the whole thing, line 18 on page 14, is use of hotel and motel rooms. I thought that kind of covered it, but I agree with the concept. We don't want to make it sound as if all the other options aren't there. This is only if they're using. Now we've got a double to the extent possible, if using. And Katie can work on that, to split out, but
What is the concept of the pre-room shelter? Maybe I'm,
of the,
I don't understand what an individual pre-room shelter use means.
well, we talked about that, the sentence above. I just took that language and it may be better worded. A community, the sentence right before that, starting on 6, community action agency shall not pay more on a per room,
Got it.
per night basis. I was just some people.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
email
That's what it
says
was.
free room. So I was like.
Yeah, typo.
Okay, got it.
It's a free room. I don't know. You get to enter
What the
pre
heck
room
is
and then
that?
you get to go into the per room.
Yeah, that's the lobby.
That's the pre-shelter, yeah.
Maybe I have one more clarifying question. This is good for Frank as well. We're wondering if you could say shall not use state funds to pay for more than the agreed upon rate in case there's private money or federal money that could be combined
Oh,
if
good catch.
funds are available, but not at the rate agreed upon.
Yeah, I've mentioned
Okay, so that's
before
back
how
to the
sometimes.
Prior sentence, just to clarify.
Yeah, when folks, like shelters, or they get in the middle of the night call, or, there's an emergency, they may put it on their credit card, or, to keep someone safe kind of in a short-term
Yeah.
situation.
We'll include state funds here.
Okay.
And then we have domestic violence folks. It's right in the room. I have a question about whether this section should. I'm asking a question, Katie, in the construct of this, since DV is under VHART and this applies to VHART, but it does say community, does it say community action?
This piece that I'm talking about would only say, would.
That's a community
This is
action
all
agency.
community action,
I
whether it should include DB,
I would be concerned about including that. I mean, those are life and safety issue, situations, and I would not want them to be constrained from keeping someone safe.
No, I agree, but I think that the first part of it should apply to DB. Section A.
Oh, A, yeah,
Yes,
Um,
agreed.
but it's B that should just be,
Right, and since it's under it's under the conditions of the use of hotels for the whole program, I think it already does.
Yeah, I don't think you need separate.
Okay, that's what, right, I just am confirming that, I guess. And because we're only referencing community action in B, we're wanting to be clear that does not include DV, not community action. Okay, all right, I just want to make sure everybody's understanding what we're doing. Okay, so I heard general consensus with Anne's concept of prioritizing the use of what you said here, shelter for the.
yeah, I
right.
did inject, I don't know if Katie heard, I was suggesting injecting when it says prioritize their use over individual per room shelter use,
Mhm.
adding when appropriate for the household. I don't want to make it, it's got to be prioritized, even though you have an individual situation where for whatever reason, that separate space rather than, in
Okay,
my mind, I don't, but I just don't want to block them into.
no, yeah, no,
You know.
you're really just trying to get the concept across. Let's encourage this.
And make it the
Not
first,
be exclusive.
and right, and make
Yeah.
it the first expected line of use, but not to the exclusion of meeting the needs of
Yeah.
individual households.
So I'm going to try to summarize in B here. So annually, department shall propose hotel and motel rates as part of its budget presentation for approval by the General Assembly. And then we have to insert in there somehow, Katie, the concept that what we're talking about is that those rates apply for use of state funds.
Put it in the next sentence.
Okay, that's fine. A community action agency shall not pay or cause to be paid more on a per room per rate basis than that rate approved by the General Assembly.
And that would be per night basis with state funds.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
just talked
That'd
about.
be
Yeah,
where it would go. Yeah.
that's, yeah. Okay, and then if hotels and motels are used, and then Anne's language,
Comma, right, to the extent possible.
to the extent possible,
Community action agencies shall enter into agreements.
agreements.
And then that all stays the same. But then you add at the end, and where appropriate for the household, or when appropriate for the household, prioritize their use over individual per room shelter use.
I don't know what it
Yeah, it's
means.
probably gonna have to be divided up into more than one.
Yeah, it may.
sentence.
but that could be a really long. But those are the components. I can work with Katie if we want to make sure that the intent is covered, but that's,
I think people are okay on the intent of
Yeah,
the language. It sounds like I'm not seeing any head shakings. Okay, all right, we're checking that off. We're moving on to advisory committee. Okay,
you want to share what we were? We had a concurrent thought about this.
that's the advisory committee?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
We were just, talking about the size of the advisory committee.
Yeah,
And I have some other.
25 people.
What?
It's 25 people.
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. And then some of them, like some of these commissioner roles, I think more like DCF, and those are important. We were just thinking, but more like Dale, mental health, corrections. We want them involved in this, but this may not be the best spot to include them, to be really like long-term systems change part of this process. And so that's what we talk about the planning, but wanting to move them more into the being part of that implementation.
Well, and I think that because we've added language at
Yes.
the very beginning of roles of the department in AHS.
Yeah.
That I think that makes sense.
Okay.
So,
So ditch all of those. other folks.
In the most nice way possible.
thank you for even thinking about participating. We'll ask you some other time. Okay.
It's injunction.
Okay, so.
All right, just a
What are you
second, just a
taking out?
second. I want to make sure everybody's on the same page, okay? So we are on page 16. Everybody on page 16? No? Okay, we're on page 16. Okay, so we're now talking about the composition of the advisory committee. Okay, we're just talking about membership. Okay, and because we added language at the beginning of the department's roles about the inclusivity of all of Agency of Human Services, we are deleting. Are you want deleting the secretary? Probably,
Mhm.
yes. We're deleting lines 18. Line 1 on page 17. Line 1 and 2, line 3, line 4, and line 5.
I would suggest also, Julian, I can discuss this, deleting line 19 and 20, because this group is advising the commissioner, the DCF. So I don't know that they would be member.
Well, they might be a non-voting member, like in the opioid settlement advisory committee,
Yeah.
the commissioner is a member, but he's a non-voting member. It's an advisory committee. I think if you're
I do
advising
think
somebody,
you
then you
want
need to
the
be part of
department
it.
involved in this group.
Well,
I
they could
don't
be
think-
involved to listen to.
Yeah, it would be a non-voting member.
That's fine.
And they can provide important data and information as part of the discussion that I think will be helpful.
Because if you look at the entry language, the advisory committee 1718 exists to provide advice and recommendations to the commissioner.
Well, so maybe we take the commissioner out, but we leave the deputies and.
That's
Good
fine.
idea.
That's fine. Yep, that'd be good.
And I also, because I've been on so much in so many years, too many is too much for voting. I would change the 5 representatives to at least 3. Because the more you have, the harder it is.
Line 14.
Line 6, change that to 3 instead of 5.
Okay,
So you still get a representation, but have less.
so let's,
So when it comes
Okay.
to vote.
okay, let me see about that. And then Dan had something?
Yeah, because, you know, we have the conflict-free case management
Yeah.
now for older Vermonters, and we're taking Dale off. I think we should add in something like the AAAs so that they have the ability to make sure that older Vermonters have access to so when you're designing the program that you're, okay, how do we?
Okay, and then you're gonna want some.
Then you want the
and then you're gonna want
DAs
The
and you want-
DAs, and they're
yeah.
gonna want, yeah, I think it's an interesting thought.
Because you took out Dale.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
DMH.
Yep.
Got all the other.
Just throwing it out
I
there.
know, I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying.
It's a-
How do you involve the community, other community
Right.
providers? And,
So it would have to come out.
I,
Right, so there's not like a bigger group that you could,
well, we do say
We
they
have the
can,
subcommittees.
I know, yeah. Um,
I'm not.
So
Information.
let's talk about maybe we include some specific language when we're talking about subcommittees and the use of people who are not on the committee.
Mhm.
And maybe
Include.
specifically referencing community partners serving people with disabilities, older Vermonters, and
Mhm.
people in people transitioning from correction, you know.
Yeah.
So be sort of like there in terms of that specific. Frank,
that one.
okay.
2 things. One, I think Representative Noyes, to respond to your point as well, I think that's also something that we could take into consideration, like the local housing coalitions include all those types of organizations. And so like in terms of selecting those, we can ensure that we're not only having like a representative sample from this across the state, but also within the types of subpopulations. And so we could definitely do that. But I just also wanted to note potentially changing it from Chinnik County Coordinated Entry Organization and Balance State Coordinated Entry Organization to just the Chinnik County COC and the Vermont Balance of State COC, because coordinated entry are subcommittees within each of those COCs.
Yeah.
Oh, getting rid of that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have that note, and then I did speak with, for the 5, representatives would live appointed by the lead coordinated entry agency. If we can just make that language appointed jointly by the COCs. And they have a plan to work together to ensure they've got, meet that membership, that the growing diversity, both.
Okay, all right, so, right now we have a question about, I'm gonna, get back to what,
Yeah.
Brenda's feedback was. We have a question of, I'm just trying to add up now, we got 5. And Katie, in one place you use 1 and another place you use A, can you just make them consistent?
Sure.
And I think 1, just to be consistent with the other numbers, if we can say. So, on line 10 and line 12, say 1 representative. Okay, so 5.
Can I ask, sorry about.
Just a second.
Oh, yeah, okay.
5, 6, 7, 8, 13, 14, 15. We have 15 now, which is
Still
actually
an odd number, so
it's
that's
an odd
good.
number, and we
That's
cut
good.
down on it by 10 or 11 people. So I think that's 15, I think is an okay number.
That's usable.
There's always people who can't make,
Right.
every meeting there's, yeah.
And I think an odd number is important.
An odd number is really important. Found that one out.
Yeah.
The, OEO not to be a voting member though?
Oh,
Oh, weren't you?
Yes, you
Oh,
are.
deputy.
oh, you're
commissioner.
right.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
You're at line
Economic
21.
Keeping, yeah.
That's ESD.
I think it's important.
Oh, I had OEO in my head when I saw,
Oh,
I think it should be,
The OEO.
Oh,
OEO.
there.
yeah, OEO
Is
needs.
OEO a voting member?
I think it's important.
So we would have 2 department members. One from Economic Services and one from OEO. OEO should
Oh,
be.
you're
on
keeping
this.
this. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also subscribe.
No.
It's so, I just, I read
I saw that
division.
as 2 people.
I did see it as 2 people.
Right, so your number count is still the same.
I saw it as division.
So we're down to,
The count is still the same because I counted it as 2.
Exactly. Yep.
I have a question, is,
Just a second. Somebody over here had their hand up. Amy had her hand up.
You just addressed it.
Okay.
About OEO.
is,
Thank you.
is number 2 5 people or 1 person?
It's one per, I thought it was 5, so I.
Where? I'm sorry.
It's line 8, line 8.
It's
Yeah.
by each. Count that, yeah.
Is that
Oh,
one?
yeah, sorry.
It's
It's 5.
So we're up,
It's
that
5.
puts us at 19, not
19.
15.
Yeah, sorry. Yep, you're right. It's
Shucks.
easy.
so 8 is 5.
It's 5 people total.
5
So
people.
we're at 19.
Oh,
Well, it's one by each.
Right.
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm guessing we want that because each community action agency represents a different region, so I just had a note, like, can't, since they have a statewide kind of, or the VCAP, can one person from that organization represent all their perspectives, and I'm seeing.
No.
It's not only that I want one from.
Okay.
Is-
So the other, I hear that.
I mean, the other spot I had been looking to, how can we get the numbers more realistic? It did have to do with your suggestion, right? But then the other one is do we need 5 representatives of the local housing coalition?
I think regardless, if you do 3, like, I think and this is just like, we want people to feel comfortable and we're helping to maintain and build trust. This is a new system. I think whatever we use for the community action agencies, we need to use for the 5 represent the local housing coalition.
And I also think the
So if we
regional
cut that, then we
differences.
would have to reduce, I would want us to reduce that. I think that needs to feel.
Stay at
Yeah.
19. Stay at 19.
Yeah.
I think the regional differences make it important
Yes,
to
I do.
have the 5
Mhm.
for each.
Okay, so, Katie, I'm gonna, not just Katie, for everybody else. So I think we're gonna keep the number at 5 to, to make it equal and supportive for people who have lived experience, because not all five may be able to be there at any given time.
That needs to be fun, yeah.
So, okay, so what we have is five representatives with lived experience of homelessness appointed by the COs, the coordinated, whatever you call
Continue.
them. COs care, the COs
Continuous
continuous care, yeah.
Continuums of care.
Sorry, that was in subdivision.
Continua.
That's one, yeah,
Appointed jointly by the continuums of care.
yeah.
Okay.
Number two is fine.
Well,
What?
just for clarity among them all, should that be 5 representatives, 1 each appointed?
Sure.
One
I think that's
appointed
more
by
clear.
each.
Yeah, thank you.
Because then people won't make the mistake we did.
Yeah.
Right.
So it says five representatives. One
One
appointed
by
by
the
each
Yeah.
CAA. One representative appointed by the Chittenden County Coordinated Entry, and that's not, it's not coordinated entry, right? It's COC.
COC.
Yeah, unless you're specifically wanting.
No,
like,
it was,
someone
it
from
was
the
meant to be. the
Coordinated entry committee or something, but.
Well, they can
do that.
decide if they
Yeah.
want it to be that. Okay, so it's the continuum of care. Chittenden County Continuum of Care.
First line we are in, I got lost.
Yes. line
So
10.
it's line 10.
It's Chittenden,
Homeless Alliance,
yeah,
technically.
theirs is called Chittenden County Homeless Alliance.
Chittenden County COC.
That is the name
That
of the
is
Chittenden
The name of
County.
the COC there.
In Chittenden County.
So get rid of coordinated entry organization, just
Yes.
Chittenden County Homeless Alliance.
Yeah.
Okay. And
And then the balance of state continuum. of care.
Okay, so number 10 says one
Eric's been
representative appointed by the
Raising
Chittenden
this
County.
hand.
What? Eric? No, just speak up. You gotta know, you just.
Yeah, I understand. It just.
Go ahead.
Back to number one, sorry for this, Lee coordinated entry. I just want to make sure that all five aren't coming from one location.
We
So
just, yeah, we just changed it to appoint jointly by by both the two COCs. And they work great. They're committed to like the,
Demographically proportionate.
Yeah.
yeah,
They're
just
quite
the
big
growing
for that,
diversity
it
of Vermonters. So it's
Okay.
statewide and represents a lot of.
Right, line 4 and 5. Yes.
Yeah, talks about geographic location. Okay, thanks, Eric. And then, okay, line 12 says a representative appointed by the balance of state continuum of care. Line 14, 5 representatives of local housing coalitions, including at least 2 of whom are shelter providers appointed jointly by the Chittenden County Homeless Alliance. And the balance of state continuum of care. We've removed the Secretary of Human Services on line 18. We've removed the Commissioner of DCF on line 19. Line 8 is fine. We have added the Director or designee of the Office of Economic Opportunity. We've removed on the next page Commissioner of Dale.
Sorry, just clarification, that's what's striking deputy commissioner.
No,
We're keeping
So it's
that.
deputy commissioner, head of it, OEO and head of the SD.
OEO doesn't have a deputy commissioner, they have a director.
Director.
So they're just different titles. So it's the head of ESD and head of OEO. They essentially perform the
Two
same
people.
function,
2 people.
2 different people.
Right.
Yep.
It's, if the people want to know, it's Miranda and Lily. Right
Their
now.
titles are
The
just
people,
different.
the
Yeah.
titles are different. It's a function of OEO was an office that was outside of a department. Originally, when it was created, it was a whole separate thing. And then through an AHS reorg, it got pulled into the Department for Children and Families.
So it should have the parallel language that, the director of the Department for Children and Families Office of
Office of
Economic
Economic
Development.
Opportunity, yeah. I also think that would help.
Yeah.
distinguish it.
Yes, we actually don't need to say Department for Children and Families. We can just say department because we already defined
Oh,
department.
right, that's right.
Oh.
Departments, economics.
are they voting members?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on page 17, we've deleted Dale, mental health, corrections, and health. Okay, so that's it for membership.
Yep.
Okay, I'm checking off membership.
Right?
Okay. Okay,
So part two of what Jubilee and I had were
18,
suggesting.
19.
okay.
Thank you for all that good work on our
Okay, the
elimination of
number.
people. Is then going back, so a bit of a bigger picture. Currently, it just actually, it's supposed to provide recommendations regarding design, implementation, and transition. And then we have two things that, specific things it should provide recommendations on. And what we were talking about is those two things actually also belong in the big list of the implementation plan as a whole. But the advisory committee role, I don't think we need to single out those two areas. It's really all of the implementation plan, which is already stated right in the lead-in. But just to be clear, we thought if the lead-in said regarding the design, the implementation of the, and citation to the department's required implementation plan, and transition to, and then eliminate,
I like that.
on page 17, lines 7 through 14.
Well, you don't eliminate.
Well,
seven.
they're incorporated.
Yeah, you eliminate 9 through 14.
Well.
Don't you
but-
add language that, of what you just said the advisory committee is going to do?
No, that's right in the intro
Oh, okay.
regarding the design. I mean, it could be duplicated there, but the intro already says they're going to provide advice and recommendations regarding the implementation plan. So that was just going to make it a little bit more specific, that it's going to cover all of the components of all of the required components of the department's implementation plan. And then you could just eliminate 7 and 8 also.
Okay, so, yeah, what's new? I got it. Yeah. Okay.
That following yet, or?
I'm following. I'm not sure if the whole committee is though.
Right.
Okay, so Ann is referencing back on page 15. Okay. Under the very intro section where it's talking about the creation of the program, and the creation of the implementation committee to provide advice and recommendations to the commissioner and the community action agencies, okay, regarding design, implementation, and transition. I don't know if we need to say anything more specific.
Yeah, maybe not, because the implementation, well, unless it's design, the implementation plan. The design, implementation plan and transition, is that what it's called in terms of what the department has to do? Yeah, implementation plan. That we want to make sure it's not just broad implementation,
Well, it
It's
is broad implementation because it exists beyond the plan.
so, okay, implementation and implementation plan. I think we want to make sure that all of those planning elements are what we're
Okay,
wanting to them, so.
okay, so we're adding Katie on line 19 on page 15. Regarding the design implementation plan comes first
Mhm.
and implementation.
I do it as an including at the end.
You can
because
do
I feel
whatever.
like I want to add like a cross-reference to it since
Okay,
it's outside of the
Yeah.
chapter that we're talking
okay,
about.
yes,
Okay.
okay. Okay, and so then the recommendation from Ann and Jubilee is then on page 17. I understand now. We would delete lines 7 through 14.
Correct.
Because these aren't the only things that they're providing
No, but,
advice on or recommendations.
but a part of that is remembering that those are not currently, I don't think, and would need to be shifted and included on the list of the elements of the
Implementation plan. So we're not deleting them or
Kinda divvying
moving
them
them.
out, yeah.
We're moving them to implementation plan, Katie.
Okay, but you're keeping the lead-in language in 7 and 8. lines
No.
8.
No,
Then, oh, okay, sorry. Got it.
Because what they're supposed to do is taking care of
yeah,
an
we
A.
got it.
So you don't need a subsection C.
Correct.
Or move
Correct,
it all down.
correct.
Okay.
Unless you need it for
Yeah, so it's-
down
yeah.
below.
Oh, you might need it for Tubula. So,
Oh, because we have
Oh.
A1 and 2. Well,
Okay,
that just becomes its own C then, right?
she'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, I got lost.
Okay, on page 17,
Okay,
okay,
yeah.
Anne and Jubilee are suggesting that because we've just made clear in the introduction to the role of the advisory committee, way back on page 15.
Okay,
Okay, that we do not need in this section, lines essentially 7 through 14. However, we will be moving A and B to the implementation plan.
Okay. Now I understand.
Okay? Everybody okay with that? Okay,
Okay.
great. I'm checking off that section. It's not there anymore. Yep.
Nice to do. How's that feel?
Okay, the next, okay. I think we need to look at number 2, consistent with the implementation plan, because I'm not sure number 2 makes any sense. Because it's really I think it's the implementation plan that we want to see.
Right. We don't need to see their
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah, I think it's the implementation plan that we're looking to see.
Well, unless we want to, when we look at the implementation plan, we want to make sure that firsthand that the advisory committee, to what degree it's been incorporated into the implementation plan.
You don't think they're gonna let us
They'll
know?
let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, drop that. Drop that. I'm fine.
Okay, so we
C2.
will delete C2.
Where's that?
I'm sorry, where else did we see?
Yeah, I
that
didn't
covered?
see C2.
Lines 15 through
15 to
17 on page 17.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because
Now
it's
we're-
gonna be covered in the implementation plan. There'll be a report back.
So we're deleting all of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I'm on the same page.
Okay, assistance, we will keep that. They are provided the assistance of the Department for Children and Families. All right, meetings.
Commissioner's no longer on that.
Commissioners can now call it. Oh, actually, the commissioner can still
Yeah,
call a
yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
Deputy Commissioner do it.
Oh, deputy commissioner.
Sure, that's fine. Actually, I like the commissioner to do it.
Yeah, that feels better.
I don't want to infer anything by having the deputy commissioner do
I
it.
agree.
There's
Mhm.
I agree.
just
Okay.
political stuff. So let's just say the commissioner can call it. And they select co-chairs from its members, at least one of whom is not a state employee.
So that's actually saying one of the 2 state employees will be a co-chair.
No,
Wait,
it's
no?
saying at least one of whom is
Is
not,
not.
is not. It doesn't mean that the other.
Oh,
half
yes, it has to be.
is
Yes,
not.
yes, thank you.
State employee include a legislator. Is somebody,
There are no.
There's no legislative.
No, committee.
And there's none of those
There's
roles
none?
that a
Okay.
legislator would be in.
Yeah,
okay.
I just wanted to make sure that at the time, there were a lot more state employees on the.
Okay.
So,
It's fine.
okay. Majority. Here's where we talked about the advisory committee may divide into subcommittees to carry out its duties under this section. And subcommittees may include individuals not appointed pursuant to a section. And here's where we include, I think we should be specific about including,
Yeah, included, right.
um, individuals representing the needs of older Vermonters, individuals with disabilities, people transitioning from corrections, and people, right, all of the agencies, all of the
Yeah.
departments, people with mental health.
Is there a way to
Concerns.
sort it out?
Families with children are already represented.
Included, yeah.
Yeah, they already get
Their
included.
core, yeah.
Yeah, so they don't get another one. I mean, they can. I mean, we're saying including.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we're wanting to specifically mention the fact that these entities need to be involved in this planning process. So Katie, a way to mention essentially all the departments without saying departments, we're saying the community partners essentially.
Something to sum it all up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Need to jump ahead, but I think it's related. Currently, the way your per diems are, they would only be for the official member of the advisory committee and not for the subcommittees. I'm just raising an equity question around that. If you're asking people to participate in the subcommittees, would they be able to get reimbursed on the per diems?
well,
$50 per meeting.
yes, the answer is that we can put it in and appropriations will take it out.
So we could put it in, you know.
I understand it's an issue of
Yeah.
equity. It's the same things, people in unpaid positions.
So actually, the other piece is that there is no number and, there's no way you can put in
An
without
estimate.
having a budget number because we don't know how many people.
Yeah, I
Might be
appreciate
on
the sentiment, Amy,
subcommittees.
but I don't think that I can do it here.
Is there a way to put the $50 per meeting in there so that won't change once they create their group and they vote? Hey, they can vote on
No,
their compensation.
no, they can't.
They
No, that's
can't-
That's
lines-
in
that's
statutes.
10 to 14.
And in statute, it says $50.
Yes,
per
that's
meeting.
that's the.
That's
rate per
the,
diem.
that, okay.
Okay, so. Just to summarize, okay, because this is gonna, and then the advisory committee sunsets on July 1, 2029. Yes. Thank you. We added in number 4, divide into subcommittees, carry out its duties, including, all of these populations that we just talked about, older Vermonters, people with disabilities, people with substance use disorder, people transitioning from corrections, that kind of stuff, okay? And then it is, we already covered the $50 per diem, which we all know is insufficient, but that is what it is. And the sunset on July 1, 2029 to cover planning and initial phases of implementation. Okay, everybody okay with this? Okay, checking it off. Implementation plan, Katie needs to leave.
That's right, I do.
And we need to take a break for lunch. And this means that we are going to come back after, but we're doing very well. I just want to, do very well because this implementation plan is the last really sort of like chunky piece, okay? And so we will come back after floor. Hopefully floor won't be as long as is suggested. And we'll be able to get through this without having to maybe have a dinner break. I'm hoping.
Right.
Yeah, because the
There's
chunk of
not
it
as
is
much.
not- Yeah, it's not as much.
Can I ask?
We've done a lot of pre-work on it.
Yeah.
I think I missed it on hotel motel, the misconduct.
Yeah, no, that's what we're about to get to.
We haven't got to it. Okay, I thought I missed it because I ran out a minute. Okay, thanks.
Okay, yep, we just took a very.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so, folks, we're going to, I want to encourage people, if you're interested in room 10, the, Age Strong, is that what it's called?
Yep.
Age Strong Plan, they're going to give an update on that. That is a plan that was developed as a direct result of the work done in this committee a few years back, and, there's free pizza. Okay?